Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rugby Paper Roundup. I'm your host, Charlie, joined by Cam as always. Lions tour's finished. Cam, how are you doing after that disappointing final test against the Wallabies?
Yeah, what a weird game that was as well. From start to finish, obviously you had the torrential rain at the start and then interrupted by lightning just after half time. Weird game. Bit of a sour end to the tour, especially for Lions fans. But I have to say, I think the Wallabies played. That was the best performance by an absolute mile. They adapted to conditions much better from the get go and dominated the Lions up front. They deserve that win. Deserve that win for sure.
Yeah, hugely deserved. And like you say as well, it's slightly annoying in the sense that now Australian fans can say we should have beaten the Lions, like obviously with the stuff that happened in the second test. 3-0 would have put that all to bed. But now there's a little bit sort of a little stone left unturned where, you know, if you're an Australian fan, you can say, listen, we've been really hard done by here. We deserved to win the series. I mean, was it 4 out of 6 halves the Wallabies won? I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So in many ways, they were potentially the better team in the tour, even if on paper the Lions should have been pretty dominant. So yeah, in that sense,
they can start using that word robbed now.
Yeah,
after
exactly.
the Jack Morgan incident. Obviously they're on the other side of things. It paints as a very, very different series, doesn't it? I saw a stat actually, it was pretty damning, that the Wallabies were not trailing at any point when Will Skelton was on the field. So
yeah, that's pretty.
You put that into perspective. If he plays in the first test, if Valentini plays in the first test, or even if he plays longer in the second test, it changes the complexion. Definitely a bitter ending for the Lions. I mean, that game was just weird, wasn't it? Even the lightning break, Finn Russell on the phone and Lions having the changing room cameras and Tyg Furlong having a little sleep on the beanbags. Maybe there was a little bit of, the series has already been won in their heads, I guess.
Yeah, but surely not though. I mean, we were speaking before the game about motivation, and we both kind of expected them to just be fired up and, you know, playing for the 3-0 to make history. And you'd think something like that would motivate them in itself. But yeah, like you say, maybe in hindsight, they were just of the mindset that, listen, we've won the series. But then if they were of that mindset, why didn't Andy Farrell change it up a bit and give a few new heads who were potentially a bit more fired up and hadn't had as much experience?
Well, I don't think Andy Farrell wouldn't have been in that mindset.
Well, yeah, true.
It definitely could have come across subconsciously in some of the players' minds. Series already done. It's at the end of a very long tour, right? You have to factor that in as well. Like it's a long 6-week block that they've been across the other side of the world and away from their families, some of them. So subconsciously that might have played a factor as well.
Yeah, and what do you make of the squad selection as a whole? Because I found it, I wouldn't say strange because he should have been picked, but slightly odd that Tom Curry played the third test when it was a dead rubber, given the season that he's had in terms of like carrying little niggles and just he always seems to be in the wars. And if I was a Sale fan, I wouldn't be very happy that he played the third test because it was at the end of the day a bit of a dead rubber. But yeah, I wondered what your thoughts were.
I think what with Tom Curry specifically, I think I think you would have had a very hard time trying to explain to him that we're going to leave you out of the third test because you've had niggles and especially the way he played the first couple of tests. There is no chance you would have been able to sell that to him. Some of the others I get, the criticism with selection, he definitely could have explored more elsewhere. I do think Tui Pelotu not playing in the final 2 tests was a massive factor. Bundyaki did not have his best series at all. Obviously came out that he played in that third test despite his wife giving birth, which is incredible. But that was a big difference. I think Ringrose as well. I don't think Jones had his best. Definitely not in the third test. In the second either, I know he scored, but if Ringrose played there, so it was slightly limited because of injury. But I think he definitely could have experimented a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that almost plays into the sort of weird nature of the tour and the final test that a lot of the selections seemed either premeditated or a little bit of Irish bias, and that sort of, I don't want to say alienated the other fans, but kind of did. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, just adds to the weirdness, I would say.
Yeah, we were speaking before. It just felt a bit flat. I think.
Yeah.
It's just the whole tour. You take the the test series out of it. Just the whole tour felt flat on social media and reaction wise. Obviously, the second test was one for the ages, incredible, one that will go down in history and sort of save the series, to be honest, because you have a game there where the Lions sort of dominate and it's no real headlines, and it's the test series would have been definitely underwhelming, especially the way that third test went with the lightning delays, etc., and the quality of rugby. So flat overall, I think.
Yeah, and I do think part of it boils down as well to it being Ireland centric, because Ireland are obviously a very good team, but in previous years, when a head coach has selected players from their given nation, they tend to be a little bit better than Ireland, I would say, if that makes sense. Like, for example, when the Welsh lads always got selected, that Welsh team was like unbelievable. And obviously other examples. But this Ireland team, it is a very good team, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that. But it's almost like, would it seriously challenge for a World Cup? Probably not. And
I think it's their style of play as well, right?
Yeah.
They play quite robotic. Ireland do. They're very pattern oriented. That they think 3 phases ahead, and it's all very nicely set up. But they don't play off the cuff as well as other teams. And I'm just trying to think in the test series, periods where the Lions sort of let loose a little bit. Definitely in the second half, or even the second half of the second half of the second test when the bench came on. The first half of the first test as well. Those 2 periods, the Lions sort of played, but aside from that, they didn't, run from distance or try new things unless it was, Finn Russell trying to spark something out of nothing. But yeah, mate, that's a good point. Maybe it links back to Andy Farrell and Ireland. They're set up right. You can't blame them. I guess that's how he operates most of the time. Right, it's hard to come into a new environment and completely change your philosophy and the way you play, especially if you've got so many familiar faces in your side. So it definitely could have been a factor.
Yeah, and that lends itself. I saw a question on social media saying that it was a statement saying that the Lions head coach shouldn't be one of the home nation's head coach. What's your thoughts on that opinion?
I don't think you can exclude the home nation's head coaches. I think you pick the best man for the job, right? And I definitely don't look back and think Andy Farrell wasn't the right choice. He was 1,000% the right choice. So we got to remember, like, you won a series. It might not have been the most convincing, and it could have been 3-0, etc. But he went down under and won a series for the first time in 12 years. And so I don't think you should exclude the 4 nations coaches for sure. And I definitely don't think Andy Farrell was the wrong choice. I think what will be interesting is if he comes back for 2029, obviously a long way away, but at the moment you'd have to say he's definitely the front runner again.
Yeah, I was literally about to ask that, whether you thought Andy Farrell should be in New Zealand. I think, it'll boil down to the World Cup. If England have a good World Cup, which, some people will see as unlikely, some people will see as likely, depending on your side of the fence. But if England have a good World Cup, maybe that boosts Steve Borthwick's chances. But yeah, it's hard to see Gregor Townsend or Steve Tandy, whoever Wales' head coach will be in 2029. But
it's a long way away, right? Like I think all of if Borthwick's still in charge in
exactly
2029, that would be a hell of a stint.
That's true.
Gregor Townsend, I don't think will last another 4 years. There'll be so many changes, right?
Yeah.
It might be someone who's not even a head coach now. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, hard to speculate, to be fair. Yeah. But I mean, who is your player of the tour for the Lions?
I think it was obviously given to Tadhg Beirne, wasn't it, officially for the Test series, and then Finn Russell for the whole tour. I think Finn Russell for the whole tour is definitely the right choice. If you factor in the warm up games, the way he played, maybe some English bias, but the way Tom Curry played in that first Test, just set him up for the whole series. To be honest, he was phenomenal in that first Test, especially coming in off the back of so much criticism over selection and keeping Morgan and Van der Fleer and Earl out of that starting back row. I definitely think he was my player of the series. What about you?
Well, yeah, take your pick from the three of them. Like you say, I think Finn Russell, player of the whole tour. But I'd say it is between Tadhg Beirne and Tom Curry. I'll say Tadhg Beirne just to be a bit different. But yeah,
both of them were phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, the way they dealt with that criticism going into the first game was just phenomenal. They were definitely the two that stood out alongside Russell and Dan Sheehan as well. He was. I mean, you knew exactly what you were going to get with Dan Sheehan, right? He's just incredible. Those four, I think, definitely head and shoulders above the rest. Ellis Genge as well. Obviously had 2 bench stints, but those four were excellent.
Yeah, Dan Sheehan as well, especially, was impressive because he almost played out of the Irish way. Like, we were on about obviously how they kind of was similar to the Irish system. He's almost one of those players that just goes above and beyond that. I mean, same with Tadhg Beirne, obviously, but yeah, that impressed me more than anything. That he almost went out of his comfort zone, it felt like. But I guess that is the role he does play for Ireland as well, sort of popping about here, there, and everywhere.
He could play for any team in the world. Yeah. He's so versatile in the loose, right? And he did get the old commentators curse in the third Test after they showed the line-out graphics. I think it was going into it, they'd had 40 and only lost 1, and then he proceeded to lose 3 or 4 in a row after that.
Yeah.
But I think he'd walk into any side in the world, to be honest. Great set piece, so good in the wide channels, smart player, knows what the try line is, great link play. Best hooker in the world for me.
Yeah, no, it's hard to disagree. There's a few names up there, but definitely hard to disagree. And I mean, I've just obviously done a piece for it on the rugby paper, but what's your moment of the tour?
Honestly, the first one that comes to mind, it's probably not the moment of the tour, but Finn Russell on his phone during the lightning break is just so Finn Russell, isn't it? And then you can see him getting picked up by the cameras and that cheeky smile. I think one of the assistant coaches walks across at some point and just sort of gives him a little hand to put the phone away. But I mean, the moment of the tour has to be that Keenan try, right? Just a crazy ending to a crazy game in a crazy 5 minutes. Obviously had the controversy with the clean out and the lead up to it, but that's a moment that's going to be replayed for years and years to come. So that's my moment of the tour for sure.
Yeah, I'd actually say the clear out itself was the moment of the tour, just because of how controversial it was. Obviously, the try helped that, but for me, well, I guess the try was the reason it was controversial, but still, yeah, that split opinion online was unbelievable. Like, all the Australians being fuming at it, all the British and Irish Lions fans being happy about it and saying nothing wrong with it.
It was perfectly split, wasn't it? Perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I saw anyone who sort of crossed the divide and went against what their team said, but yeah, I enjoyed that.
It's because you can argue it both ways, right? And if you can argue it both ways, each set of fans is going to argue it their way. And yeah, that was definitely a moment that's going to be remembered for a while.
Yeah, you're always going to get subjective decisions in rugby, which is part of what some people enjoy, part of maybe what some people don't enjoy. But yeah, the subjectiveness is good.
That's what I enjoy for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And something else I like to see that I've put in the piece was the attendances, because I mean, there's a lot of talk of rugby union dying in Australia, NRL, AFL, but I mean, depending how many Lions fans were there and how many were actually Australian, but the raw numbers in terms of attendances were very impressive, I thought.
Yeah, it was, what was it, 200 20-odd thousand across
something
the 3
like that,
test
yeah.
matches. The MCG one broke the official record for the biggest test match. I saw a stat as well. Obviously, rugby league's much bigger in Australia than Union, and the pinnacle of it is state of origin.
Yeah.
And this year, the 3 Lions test attendances outweighed the 3 Origin fixtures, so that's definitely a big marker as well. It's good going into the 2027 World Cup as well. I mean, you never really have any doubt that Australia are going to sell out stadiums for a World Cup. They'll always get up for big events. It's more when there's not big events, what's happening over there and what the level of interest is. But hopefully that sparks something. It's a nice little period for them, and they can hopefully gain some traction over it.
Yeah, they've got a lot to look forward to. Quite a few good young talents coming through, and
definitely
players coming into their peak towards the World Cup. So yeah,
they definitely gave their fans something to be excited about. As you say, young talent. You got Suoliti, Jorgensen in there leading the way. So there's definitely some talent in there to look for.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I feel like we've spoke plenty about the Lions there, but do you have any final comments to finish us off with to summarise the tour?
I'm just thinking maybe we were too negative, saying it's flat, etc. It's still the Lions. It's still great, isn't it? The other thing I was going to bring up actually, which was in your social media moments of the week piece on the website, was that debate of club versus country versus Lions and where you stand on it.
Well, I would say club, then country, then Lions, but that's because I'm from Leicester, about 15 minutes away from Welford Road. So, but I'd understand it because obviously Tigers' catchment area, for example, is massive. Like, I'd understand fans in, say, Norfolk or even like Nottingham, places like that, where Tigers are the local club, but they're not that local.
Sure.
I'd understand more them opting for country over club. But for me personally, I would say, club over country, and then Lions third. What about you?
I think most of the reaction was country over Lions for sure. I think the club one, as you say, it's all dependent on who it is, right? If you're living slightly further away from the stadium, you can't go every week, and maybe you're not as regular, watcher of rugby, and you only tune in for the internationals, etc. Then country would be first. I'm country 1. Probably Lions 2, and then club 3. But I mean, the way you're saying it, you'd rather a Tigers Premiership over an England World Cup then?
Ooh, see, that's where it's tough though. Yeah, I don't know where I'd stand on that.
Tigers Premiership and Champions Cup, so they do the double.
Yeah.
Or an England World Cup.
Oh, that is such a tough question. That is such a tough question. Do you know what? I'm going to contradict myself and probably say England World Cup, but I'd still class myself as club over country. But I don't know.
Yeah, more fair question would be Tigers Premiership or England win the Six Nations.
Yeah, I would say Tigers Premiership over that, to be honest with you. I think the World Cup's different as well because obviously it's every 4 years. But yeah, that was a very, very tough question.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I'd say that, but I'd put a Lions series win below all of that though, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good debate though. I mean, it's Lions is the only reason it's so relevant in that debate is because it's it is such a special thing when it comes around. It's so unique. It's something that doesn't really happen in any other sport as well. And you're traveling across the other side of the world against some of the best teams, and they're all geared up for it. It's a proper event. Definitely not trying to diminish the Lions at all. It's incredible. One of the best sporting spectacles you can have. The country for me feels a bit different, I guess, because you're more invested, right? You're in it every year, whereas the Lions, you sort of tune in for a couple of months every 4 years.
Yeah, no, exactly. And part of the Lions as well is just the awe of the Southern Hemisphere teams have. Like that adds to it massively, I think. And and even the warm-up games. I mean, people complain about the warm-up games, but even that's part of it. Playing against club players who this is like the biggest game they're ever going to play in their life, basically.
You can't get rid of them. It makes the tour, right? If you went over for 3 games rather than 9, it's just not the same.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it just adds to the uniqueness. I mean, a select team of players from all 4 home nations playing against like just a Super Rugby team or like a select. Yeah, it's just
100%.
you can't beat it.
100%.
But yeah, I feel like that's a good place to end on a bit of positivity about the Lions.
I don't think we're too negative, to be fair.
Nah, well, hopefully not. But no, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon for another Rugby Paper Roundup.